Building an artifact deck is hard. And I don't mean a deck that likes artifacts like Brea, I mean a deck that is all artifacts, a completely colorless deck that, in particular, likes artifacts, not Eldrazi. Eldrazi are easy, and if you're building a colorless deck, using an Eldrazi Titan is an easy path. But I want to build around artifacts, and if you think that that's difficult, sound off in the comments. I want to look at an almost entirely Eldrazi-free deck built around artifacts with an artifact commander too. We'll look at the best artifacts to include, the best spells to include, the best lands to include, and most importantly, who is the best commander. And we're really spoiled for choice when it comes to commanders for artifact decks. Let's take a look at a bunch of them. Starting with Marvin Murderous Mimic. I made a whole video about this guy a while ago, and he's super underrated. For just 2 mana, you get a copy of the activated abilities of other creatures you control. But as your commander, in an artifact deck, he lets you get lots of utility and redundancy. He could be a walking ballista or a mindless automaton whenever you need it. He's great utility, but doesn't really do anything on his own. While he's an option, I don't think he's the best commander for an artifact-based deck. How about the new The Warring Triad from Final Fantasy? This is a 3-mana 5/5 flying trample haste with the small caveat of needing 8 or more cards in your graveyard to be online. But otherwise it's a mana rock in the command zone, and that's pretty okay too. Having a guaranteed way to jump from 3 to 5 mana is strong, and being a fantastic attacker late game is definitely excellent. When removed, it's easy to recast and can attack again right away. I like it a lot. Now, how about Liberator Urza's Battlethopter? People have been loving this thing since release, giving your colorless spells flash and making itself bigger and bigger as you cast higher powered creatures. With flash itself and flying, it's a good attacker and can be a total surprise. The ability to be a Shimmermere or Skittering Cicada in the command zone is the best part though, giving everything you play flash is fantastic utility. Then there's the often overlooked Capitoline Triad. While a 10 mana price tag seems like a lot, it costs less for each historic card in your graveyard. And if we're playing an artifact-based deck, that's everything we'll have in the graveyard. This is able to discount commander tax too, so that can make casting or recasting them very easy. But the ability to get their emblem, making all creatures you control into base power and toughness 9 is awesome. Turn a 1/1 flying Thopter into a 9/9 and you'll be cinching the game quickly. If you stack your graveyard with some cards in advance, this can happen for 0 mana the turn you play them for a surprise burst of damage. Definitely a strong option. Karn Legacy Reforged is an excellent choice too, definitely a slugger for a big mana style artifact deck where you want to be casting massive artifacts as quickly as possible. But the challenge is that he's a big attacker that makes mana, and that's it. He doesn't have evasion, he doesn't draw cards, and can't make mana to help activate artifacts, so doesn't really work with an equipment theme to him either. While he's definitely good, I don't think he's the champion. But what I think is the best new option is Iron Spider's Stark Upgrade. It's a 2/3 with Vigilance that's also a Steel Overseer, tapping to put a counter on each artifact, creature, and vehicle you control, including itself. And with Vigilance, you can attack with it, then tap it, making a 3/4 the first time you attack with it. But the reason I like it best is that it also draws cards. For 2 mana and 2 +1/+1 counters removed from your board, you get an extra card. And this ability isn't a tap ability. You can dig, dig, dig as much as you've got the mana and counters for. Very strong considering card draw in an all-colorless artifact-based deck can be tough to come by. And it's for this reason that I recommend putting Iron Spider at the head of this artifact deck. It's a good attacker, it pumps your board, and it draws you cards. It's the best confluence of utility for this or any deck. And with that being said, let's address the 10+ mana elephant in the room. Why not just put an Eldrazi at the helm of the deck? The Eldrazi Titans are good, great even. I've gone on and on about which I think are the best commander, but they don't care about artifacts. They aren't artifacts themselves, they don't synergize with artifacts, and they don't do anything about artifacts. While there's always room in a colorless deck for some Eldrazi Kindred cards, the Eldrazi Titans don't belong at the helm of an artifact-focused deck. But, of course, there are some Eldrazi cards that should go in an artifact deck, so let's cover those right away. starting with Glaring Fleshraker. See, the Fleshraker may be an Eldrazi, but it only cares about colorless creatures, like all of our artifact creatures. And since it doesn't discriminate against token creatures entering the battlefield and pinging each opponent, this is basically an Impact Tremors in a colorless deck. Pair it with a Hangerback Walker for a big burst of damage that can take opponents out of the game. Then there's Echoes of Eternity. 6 mana for an enchantment that doesn't immediately do anything may sound like a tough sell, but it's an immediate way to double up on all of your triggers and double up on your spells in a colorless deck. Make no exceptions, this was the first addition I made to this artifact deck, and it's not even an artifact itself. And you have the nuts and bolts of All is Dust and Eldritch Immunity. Both Eldrazi spells, but both necessary utility that are completely unique in a colorless deck. With All is Dust acting as your only board wipe, and a one-sided one at that, since you'll never have any colored permanents, and Eldritch Immunity being your gotcha spell, blanking damage and board wipes. These are absolutely essential effects to have in any deck, and in a deck where your options are even more limited, including the only 2 options is pretty mandatory. Now, apart from those spells, there are 2 more colorless, non-artifact spells in the deck. Planeswalkers. Specifically, Ugin the Ineffable and the new Tezzeret Cruel Captain. Ugin acting as a super spell discounter, in a lot of cases making spells free, while also acting as a card advantage and removal engine is a no-brainer. While the new Tezzeret, who gets bigger when you cast, all of your spells, acts as a tutor, buffs your creatures, and can get you an insane emblem that makes you a steady stream of creatures. Yeah, this one is a great addition to an artifact-themed deck. The ability to tap Iron Spider to put a counter on all of your artifact creatures, untap it and put an extra counter on him, then tap him again is enough value to ensure this is an include. Windmill Slam Edition. Would Karn or the other Ugins fit in here too? Yes, for sure. But at that point, are you an artifact deck? And at what point are you a colorless Planeswalker deck? Including Ugin and Tezzeret for their artifact synergies alone are worth the slots. Even more crucially than the artifacts that are going in this artifact deck are the lands. Lands are tough for a fully colorless deck. Yes, we have wastes, but there's also a lot of utility we can cram onto our lands. This is utility like Urza's Saga, which can fetch you a Soul Ring or any other number of amazing artifacts in the deck. There's Mycosynth Gardens, a way to turn a land into a copy of the best artifact you have in play. Plaza of Heroes, acting as a single target gotcha effect for any of your legendary creatures. Mirrex, making you little disposable toxic mites for an opportunity to refill an empty board or win via poison. Karn's Bastion, acting as a source of proliferate for all the counters you'll be distributing onto your artifact creatures. Inventor's Fair, acting as some life gain and a tutor later in the game for whatever you need to win. Fomori Vault, letting you pitch less than useful cards for a chance to dig for a better answer. Inkmoth and Blinkmoth Nexus, giving you creature lands that are great at holding counters and surviving sorcery speed removal. And importantly, card advantage on lands like War Room, Seagate Wreckage, and Bonder's Enclave. While I'm normally a play more basics deck builder, in a colorless deck you need utility wherever you can find it since you aren't running traditional spells. These non-basic lands are all massive advantages that don't cost you a spell's slot in the deck. Which brings me to the artifacts in the, artifact deck. And I'll break this down a few ways. Commander synergies, artifact synergies, utility artifacts, and finally, flex slots, for a special package inside the deck of my own creation. Let's start with commander synergies. Because Iron Spider puts counters on your creatures, has a tap ability, and draws cards, we're going to want effects that play into those strengths. This includes creatures that want counters on them, like Hangerback Walker, Marketback Walker, and Walking Ballista, all able to get more counters on their own, but working all the more effectively and efficiently when you put more counters on them for free. This also includes Arcbound Ravager, which gets his own counters and, thanks to Modular, can move counters onto other artifact creatures when it dies. Arcbound Crusher works the same way, but getting its own counters when artifacts enter under your control rather than sacrificing them. With Trample, and in a deck made around artifacts, this guy can be a massive threat quickly. But Etched Oracle and Mindless Automaton both want counters on them too, allowing us to draw more cards at a more effective rate than even our commander. resulting in things that we want to do already. But it doesn't stop there. Proliferating helps us get more from the counters we're spreading around, especially on a Surge Conductor, who will proliferate when we have any of our artifacts enter the battlefield. Or the classics of Contagion Clasp and Contagion Engine, acting as removal and repeatable sources of proliferate that we can control and manipulate. And why not also include redundancy for our commander's tap effect with a Steel Overseer in the 99? More ways for more counters. And naturally, if we're talking a volume of counters on stuff, the Ozolith should be included in the 99. It's a way to save our precious counters, and it gets really funny when you animate an Ozolith with a dozen counters on it with a Tezzeret. But with all of these counters, standard format Boogeyman Agatha's Soul Cauldron should go in the deck too. With your commander out, it's a simple way to let everything you control get the ability of anything you exile with the Cauldron. And in fact, it's a pretty condensed win con enabler too. Once you have counters on your creatures, you can exile a Walking Ballista with the Cauldron and remove the counters from all of your creatures to ping down opponents. It's an excellent alternative to breaking through difficult combat and board stalls. And those are just the things in the deck that want counters. How about we look at ways to put counters on our board more efficiently? And for this, we want to look into untap effects, Patriarch's Seal, Sonic Screwdriver, Unwinding Clock, all amazing ways to get multiple activations out of our commander and pretty easily get 3 to 4 activations of our commander on each player's turn. That gets nasty when you untap for your turn with 12 plus counters on each creature you control. This is where I really like Sting the Glinting Dagger. I've become a much bigger fan of it recently, but putting it on anything with a tap ability and using that every combat, even our opponents, is a huge bonus synergy. I'm shocked this card's only $3. Counters end up being one of our main synergies in the entire deck, but not the only one. We're 99% artifacts in the deck, so plenty of our synergies rely on us playing those artifacts. It's a pretty seamless overlap of action and effect. Starting with something simple like Cyberman Patrol, giving all of our artifact creatures, that being all of our creatures, Afflict 3 means our opponents will have to think twice about blocking and carefully gauge when to block or not. These synergies include Scrap Trawler, a way to get more value out of our artifacts dying, trading them down for other artifacts in our graveyard and letting us reclaim crucial pieces. Crucial pieces like Virulent Silencer, who gives us another vector to winning via poison counters. All of our creatures are artifact creatures, meaning getting just 2 poison counters on an opponent can let us proliferate them out of the game with some of our other effects. This is your attrition win con, 1 or 2 poison counters and then proliferate them out of the game. And this also includes some of the fantastic Warhammer 40,000 cards like Crypto Thrall and Canoptic Spider, caring about our artifacts and making them safe or drawing us more cards as well. We can also let our artifacts make our artifacts bigger with the new Adaptive Omni tool, which also digs for more artifacts, or Nettlecyst, both turning the smaller threats we play into bigger threats to life totals very quickly. And I mentioned it off the top, but we have multiple ways to give our spells flash. Liberator, Shimmermere, and Skittering Cicada all let us play at instant speed, something an artifact deck normally cannot do, and representing amazing benefits to make up for this archetype's glaring weaknesses. Weaknesses like some of our distinct lack of utility. We need to work harder to draw cards, remove creatures, and ramp than decks that play colors do. So, how do we overcome that? Ramp is relatively easy. We have mana rocks. This can be mana rocks that can be proliferated like an Astral Cornucopia, mana rocks that proliferate themselves like a Glistening Sphere while also making more and more mana later, or mana rocks that eventually tutor us artifacts like a Vexing Puzzle Box. We're at no shortage for ways to get ahead in mana, especially thanks to new additions like the Regalia, acting as a Sword of the Animus that attacks on its own, putting a land we reveal, not just a basic land, straight onto the battlefield, and, oh yeah, gets bigger with our commander's activations. This thing is badass. Card draw is difficult without synergies, but Mind's Eye lets us potentially draw multiple cards each turn cycle and keeps pace with our opponents, though it's a little bit more mana intensive. Palantir of Orthanc starts dealing some damage to opponents, but eventually gets us at least 1 extra card each turn. Mystic Forge is like another must-have in a colorless deck, giving us ways to get some extra card advantage from the top of our libraries, but also works through troublesome pockets of land if we need to. And Zenith Chronicler makes up for some of our deficiencies by drawing us cards when our opponents cast their commanders or any other multicolored spell. It may also draw your opponent's cards too, but that's a price we're willing to pay. And life gain is very difficult in colorless, but not impossible. We have the amazing Shadow Spear, which can give our creatures evasion and gain us some life via lifelink. Forsaken Monument also gains us life when we cast any of our spells, which is awesome, but also makes our creatures bigger and makes us more mana, which is all just gravy and another must-have include in any colorless deck. Then there's also Eternity Vessel. Not the cheapest artifact in the world, but one that will absolutely keep resetting our life total every turn. Plus, there's some neat things we can do if it's got a boatload of counters on it, which is where my special package comes in. There are essentially flex slots in the deck, used for whatever you think is cool and fun, but I personally think Lux Artillery is cool and fun. I've not been shy about my love for this, and in a deck where counters are flying everywhere, it's easy to turn it into 10 damage each turn passively. Counter-heavy permanents like Vexing Puzzle Box or Eternity Vessel make it easy to just have one permanent house all 30 counters needed to turn the artillery into a cannon each turn. But Lux Artillery also gives our creatures Sunburst, a way to use colored mana in a colorless deck to have our creatures enter with bonus counters that we absolutely want to use in this deck. We also recently had Solar Array printed, which can give anything cast after activating it Sunburst as well. And Sunburst stacks. So casting an Etched Oracle, which has Sunburst, with a Lux Artillery, which gives it Sunburst, after tapping a Solar Array, which also gives it Sunburst, can give us a creature with 3 instances of Sunburst for a potential 12 counters on it when it enters for just 4 mana. Where are we getting colored mana in this colorless deck though? Lots of our rocks make colored mana like Astral Cornucopia, Felwar Stone, or Chromatic Lantern. Sure, these could be colorless mana rocks, but at the same cost, why not have them make colored mana instead? Some of our lands, like Starting Town, Spire of Industry, or Power Depot, all make colorless or colored mana too, which helps if we want to have an Ornithopter of Paradise enter with 4 or more counters once in a while. But that's a total of 3 extra slots in the deck that overlaps with our counters theme, and doesn't really cost us much advantage to include. Swap them for purely colorless cards in your build if you'd prefer, like Thran Dynamo, Everflowing Chalice, or Hedron Archive, and you'll notice very little difference overall. The last flex slot I have, though, is for Moxite Refinery. Another new card. This one lets us change +1/+1 counters or charge counters into charge counters or +1/+1 counters on different permanents. That might seem pretty innocuous, but that's handy for moving charge counters from a Vexing Puzzle Box onto a Darksteel Reactor and, winning the game on the spot. Or moving 30 charge counters from an Eternity Vessel onto a Giggling Skitterspike and attacking to dome each opponent for 31 damage. It's using these flex slots, about 5 in the deck in total, to decide which way you'd rather lean in the deck. If you're more into combat, run more creatures with more evasion. If you're more into big spells, run more rocks and put big Ugins back in the deck. If you're more into stacks, throw a Winter Moon and Tanglewire in the list and go crazy. That's the flexibility you're offered as a deck builder. There's no prescription for a perfect 100 card deck. Find out what feels good and what you want from the experience. But no matter what, be sure to let me know what you think about this brew linked in the description below. Do you have a colorless deck? An artifact deck? Let me see it. And don't leave without checking out my sponsors like Card Conduit. They are hands down the easiest way to sell your individual Magic cards without the hassle of traditional buy listing. They'll get you top dollar while handling all of the heavy lifting, from sorting to grading to optimizing your price across a huge network of vendors. And they'll give you cold hard cash for it. You can use the promo code MECHANIC right now for 10% off of all fees. If you're looking for a new deck box or playmat for any of your favorite Commander decks, make sure to check out Bonebox Games. These strong and gorgeous deck boxes are the only ones I trust to protect my triple-sleeved, all-foil Too Many Gyrudas deck. You can use my code MECHANIC5 for 5% off your order at boneboxgames.com. And while you're there, take a look at their classic Decay deck box, now back in stock. Bonebox Games, gear with a backbone. And if you want to pick up the cards for this list, make sure to go check out Card Trader. Use my promo code MECHANIC right now for 5% off your order from any TCG. Card Trader's zero system means you can get cards from all over the world with only one shipping fee. Save money and time today. Lastly, you can check out all of my decks on MOXFIELD. MOXFIELD is the best deck building platform in the world and makes it easy to build decks and search for specific cards with their powerful tools. Have you checked out their drag and drop feature yet? It's revolutionary. Be sure to check out my brews and follow my profile there right now. If you were inspired to brew today, you have to hit that subscribe button. Check out this other deck on my channel right now for more sweet tech. And as always folks, good luck and have fun.